Hello, Sonia from the Inspired Pen, and I'm doing a walkthrough today on a junk journal that I made for myself. As I tell my friends, this is the kind of craziness I get up to when I'm doing things for myself. I kind of use a bunch of different bits and pieces and stuff that means things to me, and I try to do different techniques in the junk journals I make for myself, just so I can try things out and see how I like them and see if I want to put them in my other books. So in this one, I had one more piece of kind of pocket material that I've used in some of my other books that I decided to put on the front so I can put little note tablets in here and put my pens in. And I'll probably stuff a bunch more stuff in here. I have embellished it with buttons that I've been saving over the years. I have a bunch more. I just have to find them, and then this full front will probably be covered in buttons. I sewed all of this really pretty. As you can see, it's kind of it's like a really fine knitted piece that I believe came off of a very old sweater, and it's very aged looking, and I just really liked it, but I couldn't figure out a way to put it in a different book, and I wanted to save it for myself anyway, just because I thought it was really pretty. This is sweater material, so it's knitted. It's so soft. This is an incredibly soft piece of material, and this actually came off of one of my favorite sweaters. So I like the idea that I get to have one of my favorite sweaters with me all the time. And then I sewed this all on. So this is this is not a permanent bound book. This is a removable, but you can barely see it. Right here, the elastic for those removable signatures. It holds 2 signatures at a time, which I thought was perfect for my personal use. Because I just when I'm done with signatures, I put them in a box and save them for later. It has the ribbon. I made it really super long. This really, different, gorgeous colored ribbon, just so it would match whatever signatures I decide to put in here. And I put that all together, and it doesn't have any pockets on the inside. I like to try to put as many pockets on the insides of books just to hold stuff, but since I put the pocket on the outside, I didn't feel I need to. In this book, because it was for me, and I have kind of an obsession with lighthouses, and I have about, I don't know, probably about a half a dozen, well, probably closer to a dozen, I'll be honest. It's probably closer to a dozen old calendars with lighthouse pictures on them because, like I said, I'm kind of nutty about them. I decided to use those as the signature covers in this book. And I like how this turned out because it's really nice to open it up and see something that you really love on the inside of your own book. And I find this just really soothing for me, which helps me journal. I have already started including stuff in it. I just paper clipped some stuff in here. I used junk mail in this one. I love to garden, and I thought, well, the junk mail will be fun to go in there. I used book pages out of this gardening book that I have that was trashed. The spine was horrible. It was falling apart. And these are pages that I've actually used in, I think, 2 of my other journals. But all the pages that I knew I wasn't going to use in the journals that I sell, I decided to hold on to, and then I put them in here. I have a lot of different scrap stuff that was left over that, like this piece was really wrinkled, so I didn't want to put it into, a book that I have listed on my Etsy shop. I just thought it'd be a piece I could use for this book because it's for me, and I'm fine with it being wrinkled because I'll just put whatever I want onto it. This was a book page that I cut out flower pieces out of, and I thought, well, why get rid of that when it would make a really pretty background for a tuck spot that I just attached to. This is what did this come off of? I think some stickers. Anyway, so I just thought, well, I'll just attach those 2 together because I try to use as many things as I can. I try not to have hardly any waste in my process. And so I figured, well, it's my book, so it's fine if I use bits and pieces and scraps, but I really liked how this turned out because it, uses up those scraps that normally, people would throw away. and I can use them in my book as a base. So I used them as a really cool tuck. I have actually, I think four, I think about four of these different things that I did in here. And then I used, you know, a lot of the scraps that come off that I won't use in the books I sell. There's some more calendar pages in here, which that just, you know, it's very soothing to me. And then I have the book pages. This one I have already treated with some homemade gesso, so I can paint on it. And here's another one of those out of that gardening book, the pages that they didn't have pictures on them, so I'm like, I'm just going to put them in mine. Here's some music paper that was left over that, like I said, it was a scrap. Here's that junk mail, you know, makes a great base in these books. You can use it for, you know, themed pages. Like if you are going to do a gardening book, then you use it as the background for your gardening stuff. Here was a piece that came off of the bottom of a page, and it's just the name of a plant. But I thought, oh, that looked really pretty as an embellishment in the corner. And it you know, dual purpose as a tuck spot. I love scrapbooking. This is out of some paper. I just thought, oh, I'll throw that in because, well, it's my book and I can do whatever I want. I have a lot of scraps. I used the parts with like the barcodes and the things that have, you know, like this is from a very large piece of paper that I cut down and used the other piece of paper in another book, but this is what was left over and has this, and I would have to embellish over this for a book that I sold, or I'd feel I would. But for my own book, I don't care that it's there, and I can turn it into an art piece. Here's an old envelope that I just really liked. I just saved it because I liked it, and it, you know, I sewed it together because it was kind of falling apart on the bottom. I think the date on this one when it was mailed was in the 70s, I think, and I just used it as a tuck spot. And then we've got more of that order form paper. This was the actual envelope that the junk mail came out of, but I like it because it's got the window in it, and so I can see what's actually in there. I thought that was kind of neat. And there's just a page that came with some ephemera that I used. Here's another tuck spot. This was kind of a sample of what I was thinking about stamping on something, and then I was like, I don't like that to, you know, put in one of the books that I sell, but I like it just fine for my book. And here's another, you know, just junk. It's basically just junk because it's a junk journal, so I can put that stuff in there, stuff that I really normally I think people would just throw away. And then I just embellish stuff out. I did include some paper that's, you know, normal to what I do. I did some embellishment, started doing some embellishment work on some of the pages. Here's a scrap that I pleated for this page just because I liked it, but it wasn't holding together really well. It took me a while to figure out how to pleat it enough to, and as you can see, the ruffles don't lay flat. My sewing machine kept grabbing it, which happens with this material. It's very slippery. I even tried using my runner foot instead of my regular, you know, foot with the teeth on it, and it still didn't want to go through the machine right, but it works fine for mine. I'm not overly particular. See, like I said, this one has the barcode on it. I think that's something I can just play around with. A lot of this particular book I'm probably going to theme out. Like I said, I do garden. I love to garden. Here's another one of those ephemera pieces that I put together out of scraps. This is what came out of the die cutter, and I'm like, I'm just going to use that. So it's now a pretty little embellishment on a tuck for this piece here. Here's the other side of that envelope. Let's see, was I right? Oh, 62. I was off by quite a bit. So that envelope is actually from 1962, and I was saying the 70s. But here's another one of the different, you know, there's the die cut, and I just taped it onto a piece of paper that I had left over and made it my own little personal tuck. I will probably color in the butterflies on there just to, you know, for something to do, because I like my journals to both be art journals as well as memorabilia journals. And then there's a page out of one of the books. This one actually does have the pictures on it, but this is one of my favorite plants, so I decided to include that in my own book. And then there's more of that paper, more tucks, more music paper. And there's another calendar page, that great lighthouse on there. Here's another leftover, and I didn't have the heart to throw it away, but I thought it could be useful. I made a tuck spot out of a little bit that was left over from another piece. And I just try to reuse as much stuff as possible. I try not to throw things away. It's not that I'm a hoarder, if I can find a use for it, I'll find a use for it. Here's another page. I thought this was great because this came out of the back of the calendar, this calendar that I used. But it has, all these lines on it, and I thought, oh, well, I can use that. That'll work great for a signature. And then there's an envelope from that same junk mail. Lots of lighthouses. Lots more pre-used pages. And then that was another die cut left over. And I thought, well, it'll just make a nice border, so I'm just going to use it as a border. Because this is my own personal book. And I don't have a lot of rules with my own personal books. I just do what feels right. And I kind of have an eclectic style with my own things that I make for myself. This is actually the dust jacket off of a book that was really falling apart, and I included it in here. Here's some scraps from a map that was left over, more of that junk mail. I made this one kind of a lift up sort of memorabilia or tuck spot. Here's this is a cover from a book that I took apart to put in my journals, and I just put that original library card in there. This is the dust jacket, the back side of it, and as you can see, this is really kind of torn up, but I kind of like that look just because it makes it look more authentic to what I think a junk journal should look like. But because originally when junk journals were put together, they were bits and pieces. They were whatever you could find to put into them. I used this particular envelope. I sewed the end of it together to make a tuck spot, but it is actually, oh my, it is actually a from an old pattern for, I think it's some kind of dazzling machine actually. And I have some of the pattern pieces that I've used in my books. And then here's, I already started embellishing some of these pages. Like I said, this one I wanted to save because this is from a fortune cookie, and I actually save all of my fortunes. It's horrible. I have a little drawer I put them in, but I'm going to start putting them in books. And more pages and scraps, and there's another one of those that I turned into a page for my own book. And I just, like I said, just kind of bits and pieces. I've started to embellish this. I've started to put, quote things in here that I like, and I'm really making it my own. Fits in with my way of doing junk journals. And this one has I thought I'd use that ticket as kind of a page tab just because I thought it looked kind of neat. There's the other side of that page that I used for die cutting out some flower shapes to make paper flowers out of. This was off of a sample pack of different textured paper. And so what I did was just took the covers off of it and made my own little hard, because this is really thick cardstock stuff. I just made my own little miniature notebook that I think will hold up really well to different techniques I might want to try and just save in this book. I tend to try things out and then end up liking them and end up wanting to save them. Here's another piece of that. One book with, like I said, I already started embellishing stuff, things I like, bits and pieces, odds and ends of things that I just save. I really like although the other side of this dust jacket is more torn up on the top. This one's still torn up, but it's got that just really interesting art on it. It'll make a nice background. And then get back to, there's another one of those die cuts, that already pre-treated paper, and the back end of that journal, but it's got that, or the calendar page, but it has that lined paper on it that I thought would be great. And that is that. This is what I do for myself. Like I said, very eclectic, very different, and I'll probably continually add buttons and other crazy stuff to the front of it, just because, you know, I don't feel that with mine I'm stuck doing any one thing, I guess. Anyway, so that is my share for this journal, which is my personal journal, and I absolutely love it. I pack it around with me. It holds up really well. I toss it in and out of a bag I carry around, a tote bag that I carry around with stuff in it. So, and it has held up really well for the last couple of weeks since I made this one. So I really like that it's, you know, proven to be pretty durable. And that is this project share. Thank you for watching.